have one agenda. I'm working for the people in the city of Harrison and the county of Boone. I have no other agenda than that. And I think you'll probably learn that pretty quickly. I haven't had the privilege of being able to spend as much time as I would like to have spent working on a contemplated budget here. I have spent some time and have spent some time with the finance director. He answered several questions that I had that were, to me, warning signs, and he's pretty well satisfied me that I really shouldn't have any particular concerns about them. One of them, I will tell you first of all, is that I had a concern with regard to the amount of money they show as being available for budgets. There was some $500,000 less than they had last year, and I couldn't understand that. That has been explained to me. There's no problem there. There have been some changes made, but the monies as such are now where they are supposed to be. And I'm convinced that what Lucas told me there is absolutely correct. So what we have to do here, we have a problem in that we don't have sufficient funds to take care of not only the employees, which, by the way, my feeling is that they are a priority, because without them we don't have any government, period. There have been talk of no raises. There have been mention made of a 3% COLA, which, by the way, the state passed at the county level for all elected officials. And of course, that automatically, in my mind, made it for all employees. And that's exactly what has happened at that level. Then there was a suggestion made of 2%. And I must tell you that a 2% raise is probably better than nothing. But I also am aware that in spite of a 2% raise, you're still going to make less money next year than you made, or this year than you made last year. What we're doing is, and this is not true just of the city. This is pretty general. Because of there were significant changes in retirement, health insurance, and all these things, and that, of course, makes up the budget. So the little bit of work that I've done in that regard, a 2% raise is not much, very, very little in fact. But without the raise, it would cost you 8% of your net salaries, your net take-home pay this year as compared to last year if there were no raise at all. And that is just not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. The first thing I would like to do, I would like to go to each of the members of this committee to ask them if they have any specific questions or recommendations with regard to the budget we were presented last week and the one that is presented to you here today, which includes a 2% raise. And I just go around the board if I have.
My biggest concern, find it real quick here, was concerning, before we never had an assistant attorney. And that's $29,000, which comes up on out to be in the neighborhood of $38,000. We've had Van, the total amount around a little over $53,000, and then this assistant attorney. To my knowledge, we've never had that before. Have you, Wayne?
It's been a line item for several years.
But it's never
I don't know when it started.
That right there was my biggest concern. That's that's nearly $40,000 right there that I wasn't aware of. I don't don't know when it was, as Wayne said, I don't know when that was started, but that might be one of my concerns right there.
Well, if I may, I raised that question with, because it was highlighted on the copy that I had. And it was explained to me that the total salaries in connection with that department would be approximately the same as what they were paying a single individual years ago. And Wayne, you should probably answer that.
I would have to go back and
Well,
review
that's
some
what I
of
would have
the
to
budgets
do.
before I can say that's true or
So
not.
that's the way I am. So that would be something.
That's all I've got there on that.
Dina, do you have anything?
No.
Wayne?
Dan, I can't make a comment on the new presented budget. I got part of the loose stuff over in my emails about the copy, and I've not seen a copy of the new one. I can't comment on anything it says. But the one thing I will make a comment on is, personally, I feel somehow we need to come up with the money in our budget to give our city employees who do the work around the city a decent salary increase.
Joe?
I'm about the same as Wayne. I mean, you know, we're just going to have to cut, and we're going to have to, do what we can do to make it work. Leaf pickup, whatever.
If we cut the leaf pickup, won't that start clogging the sewers and drains?
You give them fire or burn permits. You could mandatory to the recycling center. I don't know if they're leaves.
Yeah, that's how you go. That's a big problem.
I mean, you're already raking them up anyhow. So fine. They're all good. Yeah, there's already tons of places.
Dan?
You want me to mention that 4-letter word that's spelled with 3 letters?
You go ahead.
Tax. I think we're gonna have to address it sooner or later. And we're all gonna have to be on the same page.
Well, and I think revenues are going to have to be generated. How they're generated, I don't know at this point. I don't have it. I know what the usual way is, and I'm not in favor of that. But there may be other ways too that, and we're just going to have to look. That's all. And it's going to be hard. The easy way, of course, is just increase the revenue, just okay, more taxes, whatever. But that's not the right way. That gets you into bad habits, and we don't need any more of those either. The budget that Luke has prepared today includes a 2% across the board. And that, of course, would, there again, it would mean that you'd have to utilize those funds from the park department that they talked about. It's still, and the other thing I would mention too, the longer we spend on this, it's about that much less time we'll have to spend to work on the other problem, that is generating the money that we have to make these figures viable. And that is, in my mind, that's the tough job. The figures that Luke has generated here with this 2% raise, and he should present it rather than I, because I've only seen it for 30 minutes. But and you're all aware of what it is. It's across the board 2%, and in my mind, that's a minimum. we have some other needs, however, and I have to bring it up. Every time I hear a siren go by, I think about, here's like another bump over there. And just today, $15,000 it costs each time they raise an issue with the school, for crying out loud. You don't have that in the budget. Those things, and they have to be addressed because you don't have a choice. And the other thing is, by law, I'm reluctant to say it, but I have to say it. We don't have any choice with regard to police and fire. They are mandated. And this is a fight that goes on in city and county government, I can tell you. But nevertheless, it's a matter of fact. We are not allowed to eliminate any of those facilities. It says you shall, and they list them, the priorities. And number one is the judicial department. You don't have any choice, you have to do it. And the next is law enforcement, and then the other needs are what those shall items, and one of them is in the case of municipalities, fire departments. So those we don't have any choice. That decision is made. Our decision, the decision we have to come up with is how do you do it? And we're not left with a choice. And I have not had a chance to review or read this summary of raises for city employees. However, I'm familiar, I know what 2% isn't very much money because the salaries aren't all that high in the first place. But it shows intent. We recognize the problem. Hopefully we're going to be doing something about it. And at such time as that happens, of course, it'll be catch-up time. I would hope that we are able to generate the revenues necessary to do the job we're here to do. But I would like for Luke to go through this with you, rather than me. I mean, I can say just generally it's 3% across the board, that's everything. But that might not answer the questions that some of you might have. I do have a question, though. Perhaps somebody can help me with that. In the case of overtime, is there something happened that it's gone up 20% across the board? Or on average, I should say, not across the board.
It's over out, one long period. You talking about 1 year?
Yeah.
Good question. I know the police and fire did not. Did you change yours?
I did change one.
We cut it last year.
We cut it last year, and we're not making. We put in there the projected cost of the thought it would cost.
His increase against the fire department, on the other hand, is very significant.
Oh, I know why you're asking that, Dan. The reason why that is the way they had broke down the previous years. It's still there, but he's broken it down into line item on the payroll.
Yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, remember, because it was all in one payroll, and Luke can explain that better, but actually ours was cut last year. 2%.
Yeah, there we
That was included in payroll, I think.
He went with a different type of accounting procedure on their payroll.
Well, I think actually we did that with everybody's account, where before we just figured in salaries, and then now Luke has now broke those out into overtime. Which used to be in the salaries, but we broke it down so that we could track exactly where we were on our overtime.
He's still working on copies.
Oh, morning.
Short one.
I'd like for him to go through this rather than I, because, as I say, I'm not that familiar with this at all. We need to do it right, so that we don't have to go back again.
One of the things, Dan, and I think Richard explained it to you, is that Luke this year went through and actually put the money in the accounts what it was. So there were some accounts that went down, and others that went up, because he was getting the line on it.
Something in that payroll there that sticking out at you or something?
No. Not really. The thing that jumped out at me was the revenues, and I got that. We show some $500,000 less in revenues this year as compared to last year, and learned what that was. One of them had to do with the purchase of that fire truck, and that was the way it was handled. And that,
We did police car and fire truck.
Police cars, you guys need to discuss now, because you never got it to council. There's
I never went to council, I thought we did.
No, you recommended to take it to council, but it never happened. Y'all never discussed it in council.
we got in the police car there, where they speak of the future needs.
Dan, I think what he's talking about is that in the last committee meeting last year, they recommended $180,000 for police cars, and that has not been anything out of it.
That is correct. 175. Luke, if I may, I'd like to ask you to represent this budget 2% increase. You'll do a better job on the minute.
Well, lose train of thought, I thought we pulled like $140,000 out of reserve to buy.
That was never passed in council meeting, it was only approved in committee meeting to take to council.
You're living at zero right now.
Thanks.
That would be, when we did it in committee,
Never got the
I didn't hear what you were talking about.
that only took the money out of the
reserve.
Is that something you want to address at this time, Dan? Or when you just let Luke make
Well,
the presentation first?
Since we did not do that, that's something we're gonna have to address in this budget, I think.
Yeah. Was it $120,000?
I thought it was,
Yes.
Yeah, 120.
yeah.
Right, there were four cars budgeted out of reserves, and two were left in the budget for this year.
Because you requested 9 cars.
Yes.
Not that one fall hot drop, I don't know.
Well, if we can, let's let Luke present this amended budget, and then we'll get back to that specifically.
Okay, the council that was here on the 27th, or was it 27th, 28th, was presented with the budget that I believe you all have got a copy of now as well. They had chose not to pass that budget at that particular time. I've also been asked to prepare a budget with a 2% increase in salaries. That still leaves a surplus, I believe, in every fund except for the general fund. And in the general fund, we took that increase in salaries directly out of the Parks Department budget for their expenses. Went down from $515,000.
440. Change.
Yes, 440, 493, 68. and that was just to leave the amount the same as the deficit that was talked about on December 28th. So it's the same deficit number. The only thing that changed was the increase to other departments, except for the decrease in the Parks Department. And it accounts for a 2% raise, along with the increase that would occur from retirement and payroll taxes.
How much was that amounted to all told?
I believe it was $70-some thousand. It would be whatever that difference is. I apologize. It's 75.
76.
76. Okay. And as you'll notice in both of those, the total deficit is still the remaining $33,000, which had been talked about in the prior council about leaving as is and taking that 33 out of reserve.
Of course, you know I'm pro parks.
I
If
noticed
anybody
that.
didn't know, so,
I noticed that.
yeah. Will I say it causes a ripple effect? I can't tell you. I've talked to John about it. He said he could probably 1 year handle that type of cut, because he's been his reserves out. And, $76,000.
Well, I know it was a lot, but dollars, I just wondering what percent.
Oh, percent.
You might 14, 15.
17%, something like that.
14, a little under 15.
Well, that's appreciable. But they're the only people that can afford it. There is nobody anywhere else. It's
Well, they, like I said, I've talked to him about it, and they can make it 1 year, but then after that, I'm gonna say there's gonna be a ripple to it. Because they're gonna start cutting whatever, and the revenue, we're gonna lose tax dollars.
Anyone else have any remarks, suggestions?
I think we need to go as deep as we can in everything else. I'm not gonna say I'm pro parks, but I believe in our parks department and our rec department. Because the way I look at it, they are the one department within the city that brings people into this town, brings a significant amount of revenue in it. And if we do something major that's going to affect what they're doing, it's going to kill our revenue some.
I think you're exactly right. They're a tremendous factor insofar as drawing people here. And without those, a lot of these other things will go by the way too. Okay, now then, do we have any serious objections to the way we're headed right now with this 2%?
Yeah, I've got one issue with 2%.
Okay,
No elected officials get raises. I won't vote for it, period, if it's in there.
anybody else?
I think elected officials could do without a raise, just do the working guys with a raise. 1 year, see how it goes.
And that's what you want to call.
I'm fine with that.
I have no problem with the 2% raise, and I have no issue with the elected officials not receiving the increase. What I would love to see is our city employees get more than 2% raise.
My suggestion was 3, but that's,
Even three is better.
that comes
but-
from the state, by the way. Would you make a motion to that effect?
Make a motion to give them 2% raise and no elected officials?
The elected officials.
Motion we not give elected officials raises, yes.
Second.
Just to throw a wrinkle in it, you have an attorney that is elected, I believe, and an assistant attorney that is not.
Yeah, I realize that.
Elected is elected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any discussion with regard to that motion?
Now, is that for the 2% raise or just for the elected?
Just for elected officials. You'll vote on that?
Now then, do you want to, is that all elected officials?
Yeah.
You only have 2, or 3.
All but them around here.
Well, we were. Well, you only have the clerk, and they have the mayor, and the attorney.
Elected officials as employees, in other words.
Well, I'll just leave it as
I think.
officials.
So if there, like we heard the motion and the second, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Okay, that's 5-0. All right. Now then, are you prepared at this moment to make a motion with regard to the main reason we're here is 2% raise across the board with that exclusion?
Are you talking
This
for the budget?
The
For the
budget
budget?
we were just handed, which included 2% across the board.
Well, can I further discuss that?
Probably we should, before we do that, if you want this police car thing to come back up first, that should be discussed first. If you want to proceed with anything there.
Well, we're gonna have to have police cars. Of course, that's, if we do that 120, that's gonna have to come out of reserve, period.
I understand that. But I question that we don't have to have them. I think we have to have them.
Yeah.
How many cars?
Yeah, I think.
We have 9 cars right now that are 10 years old and older. They're hitting 100,000 mile mark. Next year, we're going to have 3 or 4.
How many cars can you buy for $120,000?
I'll be able to get 6. 4.
That's about 30,000.
No, I was fixing to say that. You might want to buy me a car. So we can get 4 cars for $120,000.
Well, I don't think we can recover all in 1 year or 2 years, that's for sure. It's taking us 10 years to get
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
position we're in. It's going to take several years to get back where we belong.
Can you change the car style? Can you change the car style?
We probably will change car styles this year, but they're all running about the same price.
They're all based.
They're all basically going to be about that price. Now, obviously, we'll do our best to bring in underneath that, but all the police cars cost about the same price.
And all suited up, ready to go.
Like that $30,000 figure is on there. Puts those down. I don't want to say this.
Look, I got a question that ran through my mind since the other night. When the city voted the infrastructure tax and approved it, the extension of it this last time. Part of that infrastructure tax is supposed to go for fire and police. What part of that is going at this time?
Currently, for the 2013 budget, there, I don't believe there's anything in here.
Because that was the initial reason for that, and in that infrastructure tax is that police and fire received their equipment, some of it out of that infrastructure tax.
I understand we
And
actually.
if they're not getting it, I think we need to relook at where that infrastructure tax is going and use it for what the people voted for.
I understand. In 2012, they did purchase $291,000 for a fire truck out of infrastructure funds. What's that? My apologies, yeah, 226, I believe, actually, was the final number that came out of infrastructure.
That was rescue.
Yeah, the only project in there, Wayne, was for the rescue. And the book was drew up as one project.
Yeah, we looked at that, we've looked at that, and we were kind of letting Wade get his projects on board to see what kind of monies we have, if we've got any left.
So it's not only we sitting around this table that's looking at that, it's a whole city full of people that's looking at what we're doing with that money. And it's gonna make a determination when it's renewed, whether it's gonna be renewed, if we are good stewards or not of that money. And if we're not doing what we're supposed to, we're not gonna get it renewed.
True.
And if the police department deserves part of that to purchase new units, then so be it.
One of the things I may add is I don't think police equipment has ever been bought out of that tax.
No, but that was part of the intention of it.
It's been in there and that's what I maintain, but everybody goes back to that red book, blue book, green book that Frank Delinas wrote. And he didn't leave anything in there for public safety other than for that rescue truck.
Well, those books were made actually, part of them were made before the tax was voted on. And when we redid that tax, we specified in that ballot title that it would go to that. And I think we're doing the citizens of Harrison, I think we're doing our police and fire department wrong by not doing what we're supposed to be doing with it.
Okay. Are you prepared at this time to make a motion?
That-
I want to ask something. Now, if we give a 2% or 3%, will that be each employee will get a 2% raise, or will that money be divided up where everybody gets the same amount of money?
The way it's written, my understanding is it would be a 2% across the board.
That's the way it's currently.
That's the way it's currently done. But you know, it costs the guys at the bottom of the chain as much to live as it does the people at the top of the chain. And I'm kind of more on supporting, if we've got 100 employees, we got $100,000, each employee gets a $1,000 raise a year. Instead of somebody that's going to get $2,500 a year and somebody's going to get $600 a year. If you've got good employees, you need to reward all your employees. They've been here 5 years, or they've been here 25 years.
By looking at it conversely,
I know I've been on both ends of the chain. I've been on the bottom end of the chain where you got nearly nothing, and I've been on the upper end of the chain where you got most of it. And I never did think it was fair then, I don't think it's fair now.
I think it probably would create more problems than it would cure.
We did that.
Pardon?
We did do that.
1998? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it caused any problems then, but I can remember I was working at that time at the fire department. I don't believe it caused any problems there. I would come here, I mean, I'll support the 3% over 50%, but I would come here closer to supporting that if it was divided up more equally is what I'm trying to say.
I'll say you're for it. Good.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the fire truck? Or the police cars? We're getting around the board here, let's stay on the.
That's what I think too. Let's get that resolved if we could or can, and what our best recommendation would be. I certainly see the need, that's for sure. And yesterday's paper makes it even greater.
I thought we'd already appropriate that money, but.
There's not a time limit.
I'll move we take $120,000 out of reserve to put in the police department for police cars. Well, I might have to rephrase that. Put in our new budget. I'm sorry.
Reserves or infrastructure?
Well, put in our new budget, $120,000, and come out of reserve.
From reserves or infrastructure?
I don't think we can do that until we find out where that infrastructure thing is right now. It's
Reserve.
And so that means that that would be added to the additional money necessary to make up the 2%.
Well, if
So you're talking
we
about
pass it down
$200,000.
the budget, it'll all be out of reserve.
You know, one of the things that you guys did do, and what Lucas reflected in the budget for this year, is that you did give me $60,000 this year for cars, for 2 cars in the budget this year. 4 cars would get me caught up, so that would be an additional $140,000.
Discussion. Are you including in that motion that money necessary to take care of the general fund, 2%?
No.
Okay. Okay. So then we have a motion here to take from the reserve $120,000 for the purchase of 4 police cars. Those in favor? Aye. Pardon?
You were.
Okay. Now then, let's go back to the 2%. We know how that affects, that's an addition to the 33,000 you come up with. Correct. 110, something like that.
Yes.
81.
Now we're up to 150, right? 150,000.
153 with the police cars.
Yes. Is there any more discussion with regard to that item?
That number will go down a little bit since you approved no raises for elected
We're quite sure it won't go up.
Correct. I just want to make you all aware, they might go down to 150. Just
Okay.
want to make sure that's included whenever you approve or not approve.
Let's go back to the 2%. You ready for it?
Yes, sir.
I noticed he passed out a summary here. For raises for city employees. This evidently is just for COLA raises or
Yes.
raises that the council has approved.
Correct. It does not account for any step raises, I don't.
Well, it's been brought to my attention, if we gave raises, could we give raises to all employees that have not had a raise in the last 2 years? Have we looked at that?
Now, who might they be?
Well,
Varies across the
you've got a lot of employees that actually had raises within the
I know last year.
Yeah, last year he was.
Well, the 2% we're talking about is across the board,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, except those elected officials. That's where you were headed.
Well, no, actually what?
He was thinking everybody who has not had a raise in the past 2 years received the 2% raise, is what he's trying to tell you.
So, well, they're,
So
in this
someone-
budget, they're in this budget though with the 2%, is that correct?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what you're saying is that they would not be eligible to be omitted. Is that right?
I would like to add something on that, Lewis, and might be that when I did a restructure, and I had some money, I gave them a raise, but it was very little, it was only like 0.5%. That was about a year and a half ago, or a year or so ago, so I mean, that makes it very
It would
different.
affect it, yeah.
That would affect
That-
them, and that would affect my pay structure too, a little bit if you were to do that.
You're saying that if someone has been promoted and moved into a different pay grade and got an increase, not to give them a raise. So in essence, we could potentially move someone right up against them.
I don't think it'd happen. It might.
Yeah, it's pretty likely, I mean, in some places.
What, I'm looking at it, it wouldn't probably, but,
Well, I mean, if you get.
that's just a suggestion. Thank you.
You're full of money.
Somebody got to say it here
But my
again.
question is, when you do something like that, if they have a salary schedule set up, the minute you do something like that, you throw it out of kilter.
Well, I know that, but that salary schedule's out of kilter anyway, if you're looking at salary schedule. I don't think anybody, the only thing that is a guideline.
How many people are you talking about possibly?
Well, you don't talk about 5 or 6, that get a 0.5% raise a year or so ago.
If it didn't throw it out of
I would
kilter,
couple
going up,
those.
it shouldn't throw it out of kilter, we're not getting.
Couple dozen.
Well, if you think of all your departments that you've changed around, people have changed positions or something, it may be a little bit, but you know, something like that's just that and I understand your concern about the upper and the lower end part, trying to divide it all up evenly, but what you're doing is just really making it tough for an employee to stay with the city long term. You penalize them because they move up in rank, or they move up to another position, or they stay with you longer. There's both sides of it, and you're tearing down a benefit. I mean, you're trying to penalize somebody for trying to improve themselves over the last year or two, and that's not right either.
But where are we losing our people? At the top or at the bottom?
You lose them at the bottom. But don't penalize the ones that have stuck in here with you over the years.
They're not getting penalized, they're still getting a raise. Have you ever been at the bottom, Jeff? and
I sure have been at the
I have
bottom.
too, and it's not a pretty sight. Every
Well,
one of those guys right there is going through the same thing. They start at the bottom, and you get the percentage raises. You're getting hammered at the bottom, and if you're medium or up top, you get a pretty good raise.
I understand that, but you eliminate any kind of incentive to try to improve yourself. And those guys, and the guys like in Public Works that have restructured their positions and now have taken on more job duties or responsibilities, and they did get a slight increase in pay. You're talking about not giving them a raise at all because they took on more.
They still
more
get a
stuff.
raise.
No, that's what you're talking about right now, is not giving them a raise.
But, you know, that's just something, food for thought, but a 2% raise, let's get back to it. Where's that money coming from? Are you looking at parks, taking it from parks? Agree? Okay. We're still gonna be, we're still adding to our corpus now. That's gonna be there forever. Well, think the parks will ever get that money back? No.
Well, just depends on what we're able to come up with actually, and has nothing to do with the budget, it has to do with the income. That's our concern really right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can do what has to be done now, and in my mind, it has to be done. We've got to take care of employees, or you won't have to worry about income or anything else. My best feeling is that a 2% across the board, or whatever the percent might be across the board, is the proper way to go. Too many times you start juggling figures, and someday there'll be a day of reckoning. And I believe, I say that with experience. And it'll take you 5 years to get over it.
Never catch up. Once you get behind, it's hard to catch up. Yes. Like I said, 2% is nothing really.
No, not really.
It's really nothing.
It's token.
I have a problem taking out the park, so I do have that.
I do too.
Yeah.
But we don't have another source, really. You can't, reserve won't always be there if we keep going back to reserves.
Parks does have a fee structure that over the years has not been increased in a lot of the areas for the last 15 years.
Dan, when we say we're taking this out of parks, both ends, more familiar, this first time I've seen parks budget is today. Where in parks is that money planned to be taken out of?
I don't know. John's a little
Right, it's going to come off the top.
Well, I know it, but if it comes off the top, it's gonna affect individual line items down through that budget.
Yeah.
And I would like to know where $70,000 gonna come out of the parks.
He said, and I've talked, like I said, I've talked to them, they would use their reserve to fill in this year. But that'll be the end of it. Whether or not, where he starts cutting, it'll be employees, and it'll be time frames, and we just have to get his budget down to that. Yep. $27.45.
Yeah, they could lower that back down to take that extra 2% back that the CATPC gives them anyway.
Take it back.
Yeah, it's 27.5% of the 1% that they give Parks and Rec. We'll take back a little bit of that.
I'm not reading you right.
You mean give more than
Give more than?
the 27. CATPC gives it to parks.
Yeah, they give it to park.
They're giving them 27.
They'd have to add
That might be
two.
something that we could look at on that.
Well, that's done by ordinance. Of course, it can be done, commissions can give more, yeah.
But I'm just saying it's a suggestion that we might look at it. I'm not saying do it, but, you know, we could take a look at it and see.
I don't have the figures either in front of me on Parks and Rec's actual numbers. These are just budgeted numbers. You happen to have that over there, do you, Dan?
Yeah. I don't have it, but I know it. This last year, they're gonna show in the black, $29,000. A rare year.
I just didn't know.
And that their reserves with that will just about equal, I think, what we're looking at subtracting from. But like I say, John's not here to defend himself or to speak up, and I hate that part of it more than anything, you know. And
I did talk to John, and he's concerned.
well, I would be.
Well, he didn't talk about figures or anything else, but he's just concerned, that's all.
Luke, I got a question for you on this budget
Yes, sir.
that was handed to me. On their salaries, full-time employees, have they got this at a 3.5 increase on their salary increase? That's what I figured out just now on my calculator.
If that's what you figured out, then yes. I mean, I didn't calculate this. This is the first time I saw it as well.
Yeah, I figured it out. He's got a 3.5 increase in salary while it's in his budget here. down toward the bottom, up over there.
So Wayne, forgive me for asking, just to clarify, I think everybody got the same question. The parks department is getting 3.5%.
No, I'm saying that's what I figured,
That's what he's.
from looking at this, that's what's figured in as an increase in here.
Well, again, I don't know if it's an employee or.
For your information, overall parks budget went from $469,000 in 1996 to $1,078,000 in 2013. Fire department went from right at $1 million in 1996 to $1,541,000. Parks department more than doubled their budget in that time frame. Fire department went up about 50%. And the police department was real close to that.
That's what I started saying, when I was saying this about where the police department said too.
If their budgets, police and fire, were actually doubled since 1996, they'd be sitting in good shape to buy equipment. Yeah.
That is 3.5%.
Well, I figured it up here real quick.
And of course, that then reduces the others, too. All the benefits.
Yeah, it affects everything, has to do.
Now, just to remind the council, and something Dean others knew, that you don't, the council doesn't set the parks employees' payrolls.
Right.
So that, their raises are based on their commission.
Nor are they set CATPCs.
No, there's either. Those two, they're on.
But, like I say, I hate that John's not here, and I want to give that 2% raise, but I don't want to sit here and say, it's coming out of you, John, without him being here. I'd like to get a little feedback, if this is the way we're leaning right now.
Dan, has the Parks Commission discussed this?
If we're leaning toward this 2%.
I think that's generally the.
Okay, I think we are too, but I'd like to get a little feedback before we present it.
Well,
I'm talking maybe Monday or Tuesday before, I'm going to talk to some of the parking commission people too.
But we already got the feedback.
But I'd like to see what they're thinking if this happens.
well, it would be interesting to hear John's reaction.
Yes.
And I'd have talked to him also. My feeling was that it would not come as a surprise to him. He wouldn't want it, don't misunderstand me, but I think John, he understands the reality too.
Everybody was aware of the meeting today.
John will be back.
Well, John had to go where he went.
Oh, I know. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that has a tremendous effect on
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to withhold action on that until, actually?
We could have a special call to council meeting. Now that we've hashed this out and do what we need to do. Unless you want to have another committee.
I don't think it's necessary. What I am thinking now, we've got a February 1st deadline.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
And that's going to require a special meeting, I'm sure, to get that done.
Well, in the past, I don't know when our finance director will have the year end where we have to make adjustments and amendments. We have done both in the same meeting, but we will have to have that meeting too, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me know when I've been working on it. I had a sick kid, so I haven't had a chance to get to it this last week, but just let me know, and I've been working on it this whole week, so.
When do you think you might have all that?
You know, I was hoping to have it this past Tuesday, but things that I've come across that I've emailed to you all have not prevented me from getting that done as well.
Well, I would say we're looking like the 22nd, you know, that's when we're gonna have committee meeting, or no, excuse me, 24th. That's when we were gonna have a meeting.
Committee meeting.
Yeah.
I thought it was next Thursday, but
It's the 17th.
17th and 3rd, first and third?
Third.
Yeah. That might be pushing.
Yeah, I won't be there, Tina won't be there.
That's a year conference for people who have done this.
16th, 17th.
Well, the 24th, then if we had tried to call one and try to do it all.
and then for go to the third, or the committee meeting on the third.
I don't remember, but does the amended budget doesn't have to be by February 1, does it?
We normally
No,
get
but we do it
Yeah.
I mean, you could do that at your February,
Yeah.
your first February meeting. That wouldn't have to be done by then. Your budget's gotta be done.
Yeah. Either that or we'll have to make a motion to continue the same budget.
You can't by law.
I don't think you can pass February.
We did that one time. I think we did a continuation. It was back in the 90s. When we had more money, we knew what we could do.
Would you want to, in the case of John's case, would you want another committee meeting to meet with John?
Well, I would like to have another.
I think we need to.
Yeah.
Well, then, do you want to set the date for that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready anytime.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're gonna call John tomorrow, let him say it.
Okay. I would prefer not to tell him what.
Well, I think you need to tell him.
Well, no, he knows why.
Well, I'll tell him if you don't. Anyway,
But it's,
I'd give him a chance to let him talk to his.
I will call John either tonight or tomorrow morning sometime.
Well, let him get out of town tomorrow, it'll be late before he gets home.
Jane,
Is there any-
can we possibly have one like next Tuesday before meeting and then goes to Little Rock? Another committee meeting?
Yeah, what time do you want it?
Time's no problem with me, you'll have to work that with the others.
I can come anytime.
How about, anybody else have a problem with?
Give me a time.
What time do you go to work, Joe? What time do you go to work?
9 to 6.
Why don't we have one at 8 o'clock in the morning?
If I show up. I gotta start working
Same time.
today.
1:30.
Yeah, 1:30 will be fine.
1:30 next Tuesday.
Will you be here? Are you going down for this?
I was, but I'll be here this week.
Myself and Pat, we're gonna be gone Tuesday for a meeting in Little Rock, but
Which is not important to me, but he has to speak to you.
Okay, 1:30 next Tuesday in the council.
You got a question back here. Somebody wants to ask a question.
Does anyone else have any questions on the council? Any suggestions?
Well, we're looking at a deficit. No matter I take it everybody's looking in the same direction.
Any way you look at it.
Any way you look at it, we're looking at it this way.
Okay, someone back here has a question?
Mark Garner. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I won't be able to be here next Tuesday, so I want to ask a clarifying question based on a statement you made earlier, Luke. If we proceed with a 2%, Dan, as you said, across the board raise, that will, in my understanding, not even bring us up to parity to where we are this year because of the 2% increase in payroll taxes. So those will offset each other. Our city employees are already looking at an increase in insurance premiums. So even with a 2% pay cut, they're still going to be making less than they were making last year.
Right.
Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct.
Payroll taxes went up,
Payroll
retirements.
taxes went up, so we do a 2% COLA. That's a net zero return for our employees.
It's actually negative.
Actually negative, yeah.
Be about 6%.
So I wanted to make sure that we had that point clarified and understand that all the council and everyone in this room understands that if we vote a 2% COLA raise, we're not giving our employees a dime. They're still losing money.
It's still
And
costing.
so, as a citizen of the city of Harrison, I would encourage the council to go back to the 4% that was first proposed, and at least that gives our city employees a little bit of more money in the bank. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything?
I don't know if you all received this. I know it's getting past an hour and nobody's paying attention really anymore to this. But this annual future needs, I did want to bring that up. I don't know if everybody has a copy of it. I gave it to the copy at the last council meeting. It goes over, you know, what we need basically annually if you want to do those particular projects, and what you need to do to say, has everybody got a copy? I got an extra. If not, but that's pretty much replacement costs and what you have to put away every year to replace that. You know, it's been talked about putting depreciation in our financial statements. We aren't required by our legislative auditor to do that. However, it kind of doesn't give a true depiction of what we're actually losing every year. In general fund alone, I figured I've been ordered to replace vehicles, ladder trucks, engines, buildings. That takes everything into consideration there that you see, and that's going to be $1.4 million a year. Obviously, we all know we need additional funding, but I did want to give you those figures so you had those numbers in mind whenever you take this budget as well. And just know that this isn't a true depiction of what we're actually losing every year, because we are losing depreciated value in all of our vehicles and buildings, and also, you know, we need additional officers on the street, stuff like that. I just want to bring that up and make sure everybody's aware of that. And if you guys had any questions, be able to answer those for you all, or if you have any questions where I got my figures, please feel free to ask away, or you can contact me after the meeting too. So that's all. Did you have a question?
Tuesday at 1:30.
Yes.
Sam?
Another question in the audience?
Yes, who?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback a bit. Dave Fitton, for people that don't know me, but I want to piggyback a bit on what Luke had to say. We spent, the last council spent quite a bit of time going through every one of the departments, and we basically, and Dan knows this, we cut back a lot of what was requested in this year's budget. And I think everybody realizes that, at least around the table at that point in time, that some of that stuff that we cut is actually going to come back to us. So you're looking at, you know, a $30,000 loss or a $35,000 deficit, or I guess it's $150,000. It's going to be more than that. You know, just telling you, it's going to be more than that. And the other thing that what we've done over the past 8 or 12 years is we've built reserves on the backs of not replacing our vehicles and other things, but primarily, you know, the two important areas are our police department and our fire department. We've gotten way behind the 8 ball. And so the number that Luke's talking about, $1.4 million, does that also include getting us back up to stuff and then going forward?
No.
So it doesn't even include getting us to where we should be today. It assumes that we're where we should be today and then $1.4 million every year from there on. And this is a serious, serious problem facing our community. And I just wanted to emphasize that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Dan, I'd like to, sir, on what related to what Wayne was talking about on the infrastructure tax money. What Wade has done is look at the issues that have to be addressed. And the money he's spending is on issues that have to be addressed to keep the city functioning, sewer and water-wise, and streets. And in our conversations with Wade in the last 2 years, he's not doing things that don't need to be done. So if you try to take money from Wade's streets, water, and sewer out of the infrastructure and apply that just to the police, you still are just robbing Peter to pay Paul. You've got to address the total finances of the city. It's not just our infrastructure. When you talk about what the people voted for, they voted for the city to be a functioning city with proper and adequate resources and facilities. And there's just not enough money even in infrastructure to accomplish that feat. So it goes back to what Dave was just saying. You're going to have to get more revenue. You may not want to, but you're going to have to. The previous council tried to address that and got slapped down by the city. So I have real empathy for you guys trying to go through these budgets and making it work. So that's all I've got to say.
I think Wayne made the best point that I had heard so far, though. If we do something that voters are going to come back at us on, we'll be in far worse shape, that's for sure. And they did add public works and what have you to that last ordinance.
Yeah, public safety.
Does anyone have anything else? I'd ask for a move to adjourn.
Adjourn.